most companies which are involved in the RFID industry fail to showcase a proper business plan, a business case to justify the ROIs and so on when they try to sell it to the end user. More often than not, some companies, they can actually afford an implementation, but because of lack of justifications on why they need to invest that money, they just say no to RFID. So I think that's the part where technologies, RFID technologies, they need to look at how they can make a solid business case and also justify the ROIs thoroughly, which I think ultimately will open up the eyes of end users themselves, because end users today, they are also looking at various technologies or means to further improve the overall efficiency to basically be not only sustainable but profitable with a growing competition in a globalized economy. So that's definitely one aspect. Second aspect is, with the growing needs or traction in the RFID industry, there is actually a vacuum of talent, sufficient talent pool to ensure that you have sufficient technical and business people to ensure successful implementation and delivery of an RFID system. So then again, companies, if you look at many of the RFID system integrators, for instance, they do not have sufficient track records to implement the system, and that's where, for instance, when they implement a system, there's various delays, and this obviously makes end users unhappy, and word goes around and people are just most apprehensive on implementing this technology. I think another aspect obviously is, while quite a number of end users know what RFID is all about, I think there's a bigger chunk out there which lack the necessary education on what this technology can do and what it cannot do. So there's still a big misconception out in the industry, and I think all parties involved in promoting the usage of RFID need to ensure that continuous training, education to the end user groups is held to ultimately promote and hope that these people understand the overall concepts and eventually adopt this technology. Another, I think, final point I would say is the fact that whenever deploying RFID, it should be a standards-driven platform. That not only ensures interoperability, but it also reduces the overall cost in the long term. So these are some of the areas which is either some key must-haves or things to do when you consider an RFID implement. Basically, I think, like any other industry out there, SMBs are lagging behind in overall IT adoption. I mean, let's put aside RFID. Many SMBs do not even have barcode tracking capabilities. So first and foremost, I think when you're looking at running a business, they should move over from the mindset of running a business like how their forefathers used to run a business and say it's working well, so what the heck. They need to open up and embrace technology. That's the first thing, because ultimately in a globalized economy that we live in, competition will ultimately kill them off if they don't do the necessary changes now for long-term profitability and sustainability of an organization. So put aside RFID at this point of time. They need to look at what means they can use. I mean, in the day, of course, cost is an issue, so it needs to be thoroughly justified. But I think from an end user SMB perspective, they need to be more embraceful to technology. And obviously, when it comes to RFID per se, get the views of several different consultants if required, because then you can obviously, it's just like any other implementation, you're able to verify and see whether or not the types of information that you gather is similar to what the industry is preaching. And if there is a potential for them to, for instance, improve the overall efficiency and perhaps even improve their security or safety levels in an SMB organization, why not go ahead? I mean, ultimately, it obviously cost is a factor, as I mentioned earlier, but they need to take the first step and lead, and not just be followers and hoping that let's wait for my competitor to do it first, and if they fail, then I'll know how. So I think more of a cultural aspect, I think.